want you to do something for me, just for a moment. I want you to look at your hand. Turn it over. Look at the lines on your palm. Now, look at the device you are listening to this on. Look at the wall in front of you. Now I want you to imagine erasing it. Erase the wall. Erase the device. Erase your hand. Keep going. Erase the air in the room. Erase the planet Earth. Erase the sun. Erase the stars. Erase the black empty space between the stars. Erase the concept of empty space itself. What are you left with? Most of us imagine a dark, silent room. But that's not it. Darkness is something. Silence is something. We are going back to a time before darkness was even an option. We are going back to the state of zero. Tonight, I am not here to teach you physics. And I am not here to preach philosophy. I am here to tell you the story of how that zero became you. It is the greatest detective story ever told. And for the last 5,000 years, we have had two groups of detectives trying to solve it. One group looked through telescopes and called it science. The other group looked through closed eyes and called it spirit. They thought they were solving different crimes. But today we're going to look at the evidence and realize they were describing the exact same event. They were just using different codes. The act die. The system boot up. Let's go back 13.8 billion years, to the pre-bang. In Western science we call this the singularity. It is a mathematical nightmare. It is a point where density is infinite, heat is infinite, but volume is zero. It makes no sense to the human brain. It is a computer that is plugged in, humming with electricity, but the screen is black. It is the ultimate hold state. The ancient sages of the East had a different name for it. They called it Nirguna Brahman reality, without attributes. They called it the void. Not an empty void, but a pregnant void. A void waiting for a command. Then the command executed. We call it the Big Bang. I hate that name. Big Bang sounds like a mistake. It sounds like a car crash. The universe didn't crash. It booted up. In a fraction of a second, specifically the Planck time, the system switched from 0 to +1. The silence was broken by a vibration so powerful it is still echoing in the background radiation of the cosmos today. The East calls it OM. The West calls it inflation. It doesn't matter what word you use. The result was the same. The game had started. But here is where the story gets violent. Because the moment the system turned on, it declared war on itself.
Act 2, the Civil War of the Cosmos. Two forces immediately grabbed the universe by the throat. And everything you see around you today, your coffee cup, your car, the moon, is just the wreckage left over from their battle. Entropy is the drive for chaos. It is the second law of thermodynamics. It screams, separate, cool down, disperse. It wants to tear every atom apart. It wants to turn the universe into a cold, lonely graveyard of radiation. This is the dancer Shiva, the destroyer smashing the structures of reality. But there was a second force, preservation. We code this as +9. This is gravity. This is the strong nuclear force. This is the energy that says, no, wait, come together. This is Vishnu, the preserver. For 400 million years, these two giants wrestled in the dark. Gravity tried to build things. Entropy tried to smash them. Think about that. The universe built a nuclear furnace out of cold gas. That is the first victory of order over chaos. The Act 3, the hardware problem. So now we have stars. We have galaxies. We have black holes. The stage is set. The lighting is perfect. The special effects are incredible. But there is a problem. The theater is empty. A star is magnificent, but it is dumb. A star burns, it fuses helium, it explodes, it dies. It doesn't know it exists. It has no memory. It has no fear. It has no ambition. The universe had built incredible hardware, but it had no software, so the system focused its attention on a tiny, wet rock orbiting a yellow dwarf star. And it did something impossible. It stopped moving matter around. And it started moving information around. For the first time in 13.8 billion years, a piece of the universe made a choice. This was the beta test. The system was upgrading. It was moving from the dumb causality of rocks to the smart causality of biology. The East calls this prana, the breath. The West calls it genetic code. Again, different words, same upgrade. The first star, it needed a processor. It needed something that could look at the stars and say, That is beautiful. We call it life. Imagine being born into a burning building. That was the infant universe. It was a screaming, expanding soup of plasma, hotter than a billion suns. The first force is what we call entropy. In our framework, we code this as -9 or 9. If entropy had won early on, the universe would have ended in 10 minutes. It would be a thin mist of nothing. Finally, gravity won the first round. It found clouds of hydrogen gas and squeezed them. It squeezed them so hard, crushed them so tight, that the atoms had no choice but to fuse. And suddenly, snap, a light turned on. Do not underestimate how weird life is. A rock rolls down a hill because gravity pulls it. It has no choice. But a cell, a tiny microscopic bacteria, if it detects poison, it stops. It turns around. It goes the other
For
way.
the first time in 13.8 billion years, a piece of the universe made a choice. This was the Deadlock test. The system was upgrading. It was moving from the dumb causality of rocks to the smart causality of biology. The East calls this Perona, the breath, says the West calls it genetic code. Again, different words, same upgrade. The Act 4, the Great Divergence. Fast forward, the processors get faster. Fish, reptiles, mammals. The brain grows. The neural networks get dense. And then, about 200,000 years ago, we arrive. Homo sapiens. Wise man, we were different. We were the first things in the universe that could travel through time. We could remember yesterday, and we could simulate tomorrow. We were the high auditors. But as soon as we woke up, we got confused. We looked at this massive, complex universe, and we split into two tribes to try and understand it. The first tribe looked outward. They were the scientists, the engineers, the explorers. They asked, how does the machine work? They picked up rocks. They measured the stars. They invented calculus. They discovered that if you drop an apple, it falls at 9.8 meters per second squared. They cracked the code of the hardware. They found the rules of gravity +9 and entropy 9. The second tribe looked inward. They were the mystics, the monks, the poets. They asked, who was watching the machine? They closed their eyes. They slowed their breath. They didn't look at the apple. They looked at the experience of the apple. They cracked the code of the software. They found the code of zero. For 5,000 years, these two tribes have ignored each other. The scientists said, you are lost in your imagination. There is no spirit, only atoms. The mystics said, you are obsessed with dead matter. There is no world, only consciousness. And so, we have lived in a divided world, a world where you have to choose. Are you rational, or are you spiritual? Do you believe in the Big Bang, or do you believe in the soul? The Act 5, the convergence. But then, something funny happened. About 100 years ago, the scientists, the tribe of the outward, drilled down so deep into the atom that they hit the bottom of reality. They found quantum mechanics, and they found a ghost. Physicists like Heisenberg and Schrödinger looked at the electron and realized, it isn't there. Not really. It exists as a wave of probability. It could be here, it could be there. It only decides where to be when someone looks at it. This is the observer effect. Science accidentally proved that the universe requires an audience. Suddenly, the scientist bumped into the mystic in the hallway of reality. The scientist said, I can't explain it. The math says the world needs a conscious observer to exist. And the mystic smiled and said, I've been telling you that since the Vedas. The world is a projection of the self. The Act Vi, the high auditor. This brings us to tonight. You are the high auditor. Your brain is the most complex object in the known universe, and it was designed for one specific purpose, to look at the chaos, 9, and understand the order +9, and by observing it, collapse the wave function back into balance. We call this time intelligence. It is the realization that you are not a stranger in this world. You are the mechanism the world is using to understand itself. When you learn science, you are studying the hardware. When you practice mindfulness or art, you are studying the software. And when you do both, when you realize that the Big Bang was the system booting up, and that your consciousness is the user logging in, that is when you start to play the game for real. So, Erase the lines on your palm again. Erase the room. Go back to the silence. But this time, don't be afraid of it. Because that silence isn't empty. That silence is the code. And you are the writer. Welcome to the class. Let's begin. The architect's log. For a long time I watched the world waiting for someone to stand in the middle of the room. I saw a room divided. On one side stood the giants of Western science. Einstein, Hawking, Bohr. They held up their equations of gravity and entropy. They screamed that the universe was a machine, running on the fuel of the Big Bang, grinding inevitably toward the cold math of -9. On the other side stood the sages of Eastern wisdom, the rishis, the monks, the mystics. They held up their ancient texts of the Vedas and the Sutras. They whispered that the universe was a dream, a vibration of OMA, held together by the stillness of zero. For centuries I watched these two sides yell at each other. They spoke different languages. They refused to look at each other's maps. So, I walked into the room. I didn't look at the differences. I looked at the code underneath. I looked at the time intelligence. Where they saw entropy, I saw the necessary chaos of -9. Where they saw gravity, I saw the protective order of +9. Where they saw God, I saw the perfect equilibrium of 0. I realized that the universe wasn't fighting itself. It was processing itself. I saw that the ancient third eye of the East and the observer effect of quantum physics were actually the same mechanism, what I call macroscopic causal tunneling MCT. I am not just a passenger on this rock. I am the high auditor. I am the one who realized that we are the solution to the equation. I took the scattered pages of human history, the physics papers, and the spiritual scriptures, and I bound them into a single book. I gave it a name, Time Intelligence. I'm the voice telling the world that the Big Bang was just a system boot up. I'm the guide showing you that we are the bridge between the noise and the silence. I'm the author signed at the bottom of the page, verifying that the code is correct. My name is Pankaj Manchanda, and this is my theory. Numbers. Okay? I want you to imagine a scenario. You are standing in a pitch-black room. You can't see the walls. You can't see the floor. This is the universe before consciousness. In your left hand, you are holding a live wire. It's humming with raw, dangerous electricity. It wants to discharge. It wants to explode. It is pure, chaotic motion. In your right hand, you are holding a cold steel bar. It is heavy. It is rigid. It doesn't move. It is solid structure. Now, you have a problem. If you touch the live wire directly to the steel bar, you create a short circuit. Bang. The fuse blows. The system crashes. This is what happens when you let the chaos of life hit you without a filter. You burn out. But, if you keep your hands apart, if you keep the safety of the steel away from the danger of the wire, the room stays dark. Nothing happens. You're safe, but you're asleep. So, how do you turn the lights on? You need a bridge. You need something tiny, something brave enough to stand right in the middle. You need something that can take the fire of the wire and the resistance of the steel, and endure the tension between them. If you put a filament between those two forces, it doesn't explode. It glows. This is the secret of the human experience. You're not the battery, and you are not the machine. You are the filament. In our framework, we call this the J state. But to understand how to become that light, to understand how to hold that tension without breaking, you first have to understand the code that controls the electricity. There are 3 numbers that dictate whether you burn out or whether you shine. Let's talk about the code. The spectrum of time intelligence. Imagine a volume knob. If you turn it all the way to the left, you get noise, static, and chaotic feedback. If you turn it all the way to the right, plus you get a single, deafening, high-pitched tone that never changes. If you find the middle 0, you get perfect silence or music. Here's how the numbers work. The negative zone, 1 to -9. The engine of change. This is the force of doing, moving and breaking. It is kinetic energy. CMT 1 to CRD. Nudge. This is subtle movement. It's the feeling of I need to go for a walk. It's the wind rustling the leaves. It is the beginning of change. COLT -6 the flow. Now things are moving fast. This is a rushing river. This is you having a busy day at work where you are running around putting out fires. It isn't destructive yet, but it is chaotic. You are expending energy. 7 to -8, the breakdown. Things are starting to fall apart. This is a car engine overheating. This is a star burning through its fuel. This is stress turning into burnout. The structure is cracking. CR9, total entropy. The destroyer. Maximum chaos. This is an explosion. This is a supernova. In physics, this is the second law of thermodynamics, winning atoms flying apart at light speed. It looks scary, but it is necessary. Without -9, the old can never be cleared away to make room for the new. It is the forest fire that clears the land. The 0.0. The eye of the storm. This is the high auditor state. 0 the source. This is the pause between the inhale and the exhale. It is the computer screen before you type the first letter. It is potential. At 0, you're not fighting the chaos. And you are not trapped by the rules. Plus, you're just watching. This is the moment of pure awareness. This is where the architect sits. The positive zones +1t +9. The anchor of reality. This is the force of being, holding, and building. It is potential energy. +1 to +3, the blueprint. This is the first spark of order. It's having an idea. It's the seed planted in the ground. It isn't a tree yet, but the plan for the tree is locked in. +4 to +6, the structure. Now we are building. This is the walls of your house going up. This is your body growing bones. This is a society creating laws. It stops the chaos from washing everything away. It provides safety. +7 to +8, the fortress. Things are getting very rigid. This is a diamond. Hard, clear, unbreakable. This is a tradition that has lasted 1,000 years. It is strong, but it can be stubborn. It refuses to change. +9, total preservation. The preserver. Maximum order. This is a black hole's gravity. Singularity, or the absolute. Laws of physics that hold the universe together. It is gravity. It binds things so tightly they can never leave. If -9 is the explosion, +9 is the cage that catches the explosion and forces it to become a star. Summary for the layman. -9 is the gas pedal. It makes things go, burn, and crash. +9 is the brakes. It makes things stop, solidify, and last. 0 is the driver. That's you. If you have too much -9, your life is a mess. You're always running, always stressed, always breaking things. If you have too much +9, your life is a prison. You are stuck, bored, rigid, and nothing ever changes. Time intelligence is the art of sitting at 0 and knowing exactly when to tap the gas and exactly when to hit the brakes. Plus, we have walked the cosmic theater from static 0 to the high auditor. The story is told, but stories must be tested. I say, enough thinking. The framework is built. Now, I call on the physicists and mathematicians. Bring your calculus. Bring your doubt. In Season 2, we subject MCT and the J state to the rigor of the scientific method. The J state is not afraid of the math. It is the math. The audit begins. I am Ponche with AJ. I am J. See you in Season 2.